this is some sort of internet thing that Kendrick Lamar put into a song. They don't like each other. I guess he was like sort of a protege of Drake's, but then they broke up and they don't like each other. But that's a little small ball for the Super Bowl. And you looked around during the performance, nobody was even paying attention. Everybody's on their phone. It wasn't like, it was far from like a Michael Jackson where it's like, oh my God, right? Everybody in the stadium's riveted. It was like, okay.
If this is the reaction to Megyn Kelly, then I believe the Super Bowl halftime show's intended audience was reached.
One thing that Kendrick is incredible at doing, something I haven't seen people really be able to do, whether it's through music or imagery, is layers to a story. And there's multiple layers to everything that happened, right? Samuel Jackson is playing Uncle Sam in Body of America, welcoming us to the great American game. The great American game is in the game of Kendrick's life that's about to play out, right? That's why we see the PlayStation controller on the football field, the game as in football, and the game as in the thing that we're all in, the thing that we all play. Whether you feel like you're playing it or not, you're a part of it.
Comedian Josh Johnson gives a masterclass in breaking down the performance and much more at his show in Asheville.
What about the halftime show? Did you like that?
Bro, I couldn't understand a word that was being said, man. I had my volume turned up. I had a bunch of people yelling and screaming at the house, and I really didn't know what was going on, man.
Wow, big shock coming from this guy.
Hogan is heard on the tape, which was recorded in 2006, talking about his daughter Brooke, who he accused of sleeping with an African American. I mean, I am a racist to a point. But then, when it comes to nice people and whatever, then says, I mean, I'd rather, if she was going to I'd rather have her marry an 8-foot worth $100 million, like a basketball player. Guess we're all a little racist.
And then he does Squabble Up, and out of nowhere, after Squabble Up, Samuel Jackson comes out again, no, too loud, too reckless, too ghetto. One of the things that if you've been black in America at any point you've heard about yourself, whether you overheard it from people talking behind your back or it was told to your face, too loud, too reckless, too ghetto, there's something wrong with you just being yourself. And it's delivered by Uncle Sam. Right?
There is so much symbolism and imagery that flew over the heads of conservatives that honestly, I am here for it. Let them squalor in ignorance.
Well, I mean, Megan, you bring up the small ball comment, and I think you're right. I think something that would have been cooler is if he'd have brought Drake out during that, and they would have squashed the beef, and it would have been like a unifying thing, and everybody would have got behind it. I think that'd have been a much more lucrative way to go about it. But as far as deciding to put him as the halftime show, and David has 3 great solutions to fixing the Super Bowl halftime, which I'm sure he's going to tell you here in a minute. But if I can't understand the words that you're saying, and when I listen to Money Trees by Kendrick Lamar and some of the other songs he does that I like, I can 100% understand what he's saying. But he might as well have been speaking North Korean to me. That's why after the first 3 minutes, I couldn't understand. I can't go along with something. It was verbal braille. That's what it was.
Again, not the target audience. And giving the solution for Kendrick calling it off, my guy, this is seismic in hip hop. And really, if you think about it, we've only just begun.
So then this dude, Uncle Sam, Samuel Jackson, tells him, tighten up. He asks him, Mr. Lamar, do you really know how to play the game? Do you really know how to navigate? Do you really know what's expected of you? Do you really know what to do next? Then tighten up. And that's a wild conversation to have with someone who maybe even thinks they're helping you, right? Because that's been told to me in different ways by lots of people. Tighten up, watch yourself. Don't be too loud, too ghetto, too reckless, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's white people, sure, but sometimes it's older black people that I know that just want you to be safe because they know how the game is played, right?
Yet the message continues to be lost on folks like Megyn Kelly, Hulk Hogan, Jesse Waters, The Daily Wire, and more. While they blabber about nonsense, it's clear they could not hear nor could they understand what was happening. And well, as Pusha T says, if you know, you know.
Hey guys, quick break in the action. I have a new show coming out called The Rick Strom Show. It is going to be awesome. I'm interviewing musicians, athletes, producers, writers, journalists, authors, sports doctors. Go check it out at youtube.com/@TheRickStrom Show. Also be sure to throw me a follow on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. It can all be found in the description box below. Thank you.
It was hard to make out what was actually being said. Kendrick Lamar's 12 minutes of rap was basically a musical grudge match. The music itself is not broad enough or well known enough to reach generations. Let's put Carrie Underwood and Reba and Morgan Wallen. Let them have a go at it.
Ah, yes. Let's only put on the guy who publicly said the N-word. In addition, having the confidence to state Kendrick Lamar's music is not broad enough shows how dense this conservative Dracula really is.
Goes into Man at the Garden. And Man at the Garden is one of those things. It's a refrain. I deserve it all. All these things, right? And he's on the block. And you see these boys on the block, so black. Gold teeth, dreads, everything. And then they scurry. They see Uncle Sam coming. Uncle Sam walks up. Kendrick's already walked off. And he says, "Oh, you brought your homeboys with you. Okay, little culture cheat code." Turns to the camera and says, "Scorekeeper, deduct one life." And some people didn't hit me hard because that is what happens. That is part of the game. You should know that. That's one of the reasons that it's sometimes scary to stand up. It's scary to be different because whenever you build community, they usually deduct one life. Whenever you make a movement, they deduct one life. And there are plenty of examples of it happening with black people and black culture, but it is everybody, just so you know. No matter who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter when you came to this country, try to start a union. And look, it might not be you. They might miss. But it is what happens.
Johnson would also mention how it hits even harder on top of this because Samuel Jackson was an usher at Martin Luther King Jr.'s funeral.
Dear fellow Americans, just my quick little rant on this halftime nonsense. I mean, come on, stop with the ghetto crap. I'm done with the ghetto. I've had it up to here with ghetto. I know they want to say rap is this and rap is the streets and rap is the current and rap is the that. Look at jazz. The jump black and jazz blues artists. Give me the Count Basie band. Give me Duke Ellington's band. Give me the history. Give me jazz. You want to go black? Go art. Don't go ghetto. Enough with this. Who in the NFL hired this act? And Sam Jackson monkeying around. I mean, that's. I'm sorry. It just repulsed me. What are they trying to do? What's the message? What's the message in the collard greens? Tell me. This ghetto crap. I'm done with ghetto crap.
This ex-actor Robert Davi went full racist in his analysis. I look forward to K-Dot featuring this rant as a prelude to a song one day.
Then they go to Peekaboo and know that when Samuel Jackson pops up again and he says, "Yes, see, that's what we want. That's what we want. That's what America wants. Nice, calm. You're almost there. Don't mess this up." That is the truth of the matter. That is how people sometimes, prefer their hip hop, prefer their protests. Why can't you just do it sedated? Why can't you just tone it down a notch, right?
Meanwhile, they're asking for the message when they are getting it right here. Maybe Mr. Davi can sit down, shut it, and listen for once. Josh Johnson is showing a different way to approach comedy with his uploads and bits. Please check out his YouTube where he has surpassed 1 million subs. Head over to joshjohnsоncomedy.com/tour to see if he's performing in a city near you and throw him a follow on Instagram plus TikTok. Great stuff as always, Josh. Thank you for your art.
Politically, I don't know. I mean, there'll always be something politically, but I think the dust is starting to settle in a good way. So we don't have to be as controversial as we have been. But we try to be just positive and common sense. And I think you'll see more of that.
You would think that it's pretty common sense to not get yourself wrapped up in the biggest welfare scandal in your state's history, but that's asking a lot out of disgraced NFL quarterback Brett Favre. Instead, he's celebrating Donald Trump's return to the White House and the rapidly forming kleptocracy that's been kicked into overdrive on his watch.
Last night, that said the supporters of Donald Trump, us, or garbage. I can assure you we're not garbage. How dare he say that?
We'll let you make up your own mind because you should know where we stand already.
It shows that Brett Favre asked the head of a nonprofit handling welfare funds, quote, "If you were to pay me, is there any way that the media could find out where it came from and how much?"
To help recruit a player for his college alma mater, the University of Southern Mississippi, in 2019. The funding in question from a grant program intended for low-income families. The governor responded to Favre's request. Use of these funds is tightly controlled. Any improper use could result in violation of federal law.
In May of 2020, he came out with a report that said that Brett Favre himself had received $1 million in welfare payments to basically under a promotional gig to promote the welfare program. He was aware that this money was coming from the Department of Human Services. He was working with John Davis on pulling down this money. And the way that he spoke about it was really like, I'm trying to save myself some money here. Can y'all please help me out?
State Auditor Shad White led the investigation.
It was a video of Mr. Favre promoting Prevacus's product, which was a nasal spray that was designed to prevent concussions. And my first question was, what does this have to do with welfare money? And the investigator's answer was exactly, what does it have to do with welfare money?
Hey guys, quick break in the action. I have a new show coming out called The Rick Strom Show. It is going to be awesome. I'm interviewing musicians, athletes, producers, writers, journalists, authors, sports doctors. Go check it out at youtube.com/@TheRickStrom Show. Also be sure to throw me a follow on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. It can all be found in the description box below. Thank you.
I wanted to at least collect the facts.
Former U.S. Attorney Brad Pygott was hired by the state to find the money.
How is Brett Favre getting money that's supposed to get kids out of poverty?
It's a mystery to us. Here we had tens of millions of dollars sent by the country to do the thing that we need done the most, and it was squandered.
In July, he issued a subpoena to get more answers about that volleyball arena, including any communications between the university and former Governor Phil Bryant.
What happened to you after you filed your subpoena?
I was terminated.
Check out my extensive coverage of Brett Favre's involvement in the bombshell Mississippi welfare scandal if you want to learn more about the details and forces at play. Surprisingly enough, Favre isn't back in the news because of an update from this, but rather for some recent comments he made in support of this clown.
She doesn't have the intellect, the stamina, or that special quality that real leaders, people like Brett Favre have. They don't have it. They don't have what he's got. Few people do, to be honest with you. Joe Biden.
In reaction to Trump and his lapdog J.D. Vance berating and disrespecting President Zelensky in the Oval Office in front of the entire world while cutting a perfect piece of propaganda for Putin in the process, Favre, of course, couldn't get enough of the public humiliation, as did Hall of Fame college football coach and former ESPN analyst Lou Holtz, who quoted Favre's tweet and parroted the same BS America First talking point while lauding the so-called leadership from Trump and Vance for bullying an ally of ours who are currently fighting a defensive war. If you think that destroying the minuscule amount of goodwill we have left with the rest of the world and ruining the reputations of hundreds of millions of American citizens in acting in an America First way, then we don't know what to tell you. But as we've seen, Favre is not someone to look to for thoughtful and accurate political takes.
And I think there's some good in that and being quiet, but there's also that element of standing up for what you believe in. And it's crazy because most of it's common sense. And to think that we're having a discussion that our president has to sign a bill to keep men out of women's sports is absolutely insane.
Like his fellow MAGA buffoons, Favre has fallen for the manufactured panic surrounding trans athletes, turning a complete non-issue into a galvanizing force for Trump's base of support. Though in case you weren't aware,
how many athletes are there in the United States in NCAA schools?
510,000.
How many transgender athletes are you aware of?
Less than 10.
Less than 10
Yep.
out of 510,000?
Yep.
510,000 athletes, 10 transgender athletes nationwide?
Or less.
NCAA President Charlie Baker, who is by no stretch of the imagination some radical lefty, deeply committed to social justice and equity both inside and outside of the organization, spelled it out clear as day that the entire conversation is being blown out of proportion and wielded solely for political gain. As they say, birds of a feather. There is a storyline brewing that involves Wayne Gretzky and Republican President Donald Trump.
Gretzky has spent time at U.S. President Donald Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago. He had a prime seat at the inauguration. Trump has even floated Gretzky should run for Prime Minister of Canada, soon to be Governor of Canada. A nod to Trump's desire to make Canada the 51st state.
Let's pause here. What really struck the ire of so many Canadians was this image. Wayne Gretzky emerged from the American side of the two benches. He gave a thumbs up to the Americans and represented Canada as an honorary captain. He said nothing about Donald Trump's 51st state remarks.
I think by taking this job, by accepting being an honorary captain for the biggest Canadian hockey game on the men's side in well over 10 years, I think at that point you probably do owe people a bit of an explanation. Not only that, but Donald Trump has said to Wayne Gretzky that he wants him to be the governor of the 51st state, right? Wayne Gretzky is a sainted figure in this country for good reason. He's the greatest hockey player in the sport that we care the most about. He has conducted himself for a lot of his life with real honor and grace. But how close he is to Donald Trump at this moment, and him being chosen as an honorary captain for this event, those two things didn't add up for me. It almost felt like a phantom limb response. You know what I mean? Like this was Canada picking its greatest hockey player for the biggest game. But I don't think right now that Wayne Gretzky has as unblemished a spot in the Canadian imagination as he used to have. And I think he would really do well to show a little more, or at least explain a little more as to why he's doing this, as to where he stands on the possibility that this country, under one of his friends, on the direction of one of his friends, could cease to exist.
Toronto sports columnist Bruce Arthur, who is also a fantastic follow on social media, gave his insights. Many in Canada had one super simple question. Why aren't you saying anything?
The silence from Wayne Gretzky, I think, is disappointing for a lot of hockey fans. These players are going to have their politics, but when it's Wayne Gretzky and he's supporting Donald Trump in this way publicly, that's where it gets disappointing because he's held to such a higher standard.
Especially in Edmonton.
Hey guys, quick break in the action. I have a new show coming out called The Strom Show. It is going to be awesome. I'm interviewing musicians, athletes, producers, writers, journalists, authors, sports doctors. Go check it out at youtube.com/@TheRickStrom Show. Also be sure to throw me a follow on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. It can all be found in the description box below. Thank you. Another moment many Canadians noticed was this. The American captain wore a Team USA hockey jersey. Gretzky didn't wear a Team Canada sweater. Just a suit and tie. The critics were out in full force. I really believe that, like everyone else, Wayne Gretzky is entitled to support whomever he wants. And while he's done a ton for Canadian hockey,
Making him the honorary captain for Team Canada for this game is just plain tone deaf, wrote one user on social media.
The fact that this has gone on, not just, Donald Trump has threatened to issue not just tariffs, but maybe annex the country, maybe erase the country. It also featured an American team that embraced Donald Trump and that message. So this was a hockey game. Yeah, fabulous hockey game, great hockey game, lots of great players. Both teams were great. But this was, I would argue, probably the most politically significant hockey game, at least since the Summit Series in '72. And I think you could argue more significant than that.
Another user would chime in. It is a huge insult to Team Canada, to our country, and our people to have Wayne Gretzky come out to represent us. He never approached the Canadian bench, only the United States. He wore nothing to indicate he was Canadian at all. It is a disgrace. Well, the United States can have him.
Hockey fan Grant Preet has more than 7,000 signatures on a petition to change the name Wayne Gretzky Drive.
He's abandoned Canada, and I don't think that we should be, treating him as a hero by having things named after him.
A name change would have to get city approval.
Rightfully, another social media critic weighed in. This Canada as a state is getting really, really old and gross. Also, there's a lot of us up here who have soured on Wayne Gretzky because of his association with Trump.
It's true. A lot of people in Canada are liking becoming our beautiful, cherished 51st state. They'll have to pay much lower taxes. They'll have the ultimate security. They don't pay very much for security right now because they rely on us, which is really unfair to us. They make cars that we could make, and they send them back into the United States. They make a lot of things, including the sending of oil and everything. We don't need their oil. We don't need their lumber. In fact, we're going to be freeing up, and I've asked Howard Lutnick to get that done with Lee and everybody, Lee Zeldin, environmental. We're freeing up our forests. We're going to be able to take down trees. Right now, we're so restricted environmentally. We're going to be freeing it up with an emergency order. We have an emergency order, and we're going to be freeing up our forests. We have more forests than almost anybody, and great lumber, great trees. We don't need anybody's trees. We don't need trees from Canada or anybody else. In fact, we have to put the slits, as they call them, the area, 50, 60-yard area in between areas of trees. It stops the fires.
I agree with Bruce Arthur that this felt like much more than a game because I was going to say political undertones, but that seems as though it's a misstatement. Overtones would be the correct way of putting it. And it's all because of the president. It is all because of our president, who slapped tariffs on north and south of the border, Canada and Mexico, respectively, when he should not have done that. And going after the Canadians over and over again, basically saying that the United States will colonize Canada and will make them the 51st state. Let me just say, as an American who truly does believe in the antithesis of what Trump believes, the fact that there's so many Canadians speaking up and dissenting against this rhetoric, which is dangerous, let me be very clear. If we've learned anything from Elon doing a Nazi salute, these people who are very powerful carry loyalists, and those loyalists pay heed to their words and their actions. You have people from Montreal to Edmonton to Alberta who are saying no to this. Yet one of, if not the most famous Canadians, is saying nothing. I understand why some majority in the country would be incredibly peeved at this. Because if the guy with 12 Twitter followers is a dissenting voice, why isn't the guy who has the largest, loudest, most well-known megaphone in the country? If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.